On this Friday night, it's a COVID Christmas Eve. Holiday travel plans are up in the air after pandemic staffing shortages ground thousands of flights.
It's not really in our control, right?
While others find ways around the restrictions. Holiday get-togethers off the table. The plight before Christmas. Prepare to launch. NASA's telescope is about to take space exploration to new heights.
Dream come true.
We'll show you Canada's critical contributions to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. Plus, tiny treasures hidden in plain sight.
I want to stop someone in their day and think, what?
Meet the secretive street artist who's delivering a mini masterpiece.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. On one of the busiest travel days of the year, thousands have been left stranded. Major airlines are canceling Christmas Eve flights, blaming a high number of staff sidelined due to COVID-19. Mike Drolet has more on how Omicron is upending holiday travel plans.
The Omicron variant sure has a way of dampening the holiday spirit. According to a flight tracking website, over 3,000 flights around the world have been canceled, including hundreds in the U.S. because flight crews have struggled to stay COVID-free.
I am aware of the risk that I'm taking by traveling during this time of year, especially with the variants going around.
Case numbers are spiking in record numbers around the world, no more so than in the U.K., which has now topped 120,000 daily cases. But as shocking as those numbers are, the UK's top doctors suggest there's a glimmer of hope, because preliminary data suggests that people with Omicron are 50 to 70% less likely to need hospitalization compared to those with Delta.
There's no question we are going to see, just with the sheer numbers of patients or the sheer number of cases, we're going to see more hospitalizations. But if those hospitalizations are short duration, people are recovering quickly and are able to be discharged, they're not ending up in ICU, those are the kind of numbers that we really want to look at and pay attention to.
So while the UK may impose more restrictions after the holidays, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is encouraging Brits to enjoy Christmas.
And though the time for buying presents is theoretically running out, there is still a wonderful thing you can give your family and the whole country, and that is to get that jab.
Officials in the Chinese city of Xi'an are trying to get their COVID cases down to zero by imposing a strict lockdown for its 13 million residents. No one is allowed to leave home except to buy necessities. In northern Spain, Greece, and Italy, officials have mandated mask wearing outside, while a strict lockdown has left streets in the Netherlands virtually empty. However, many Dutch have found a way around the restrictions by crossing the border to go shopping in Belgium.
I don't think we need to feel guilty because we know we are smart and don't do anything stupid to spread the virus.
Because no one really wants a holiday in COVID isolation. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
Now, because of the holiday, not all provinces are providing new COVID case numbers, but the regions that are continue to see record-breaking spread. One of those places, again, is BC, with more than 2,400 new cases today. Ontario hit an all-time high, too, more than 9,500. That's an increase of nearly 4,000 just from yesterday, and triple the number reported this time last week. Manitoba also set a record with more than 740, though hospitalizations there remain steady. Manitoba's climbing caseload is also causing a major strain on the testing system. Today, there was a backlog of 10,000 tests. Officials there are urging people to rethink their holiday gatherings.
With these very high case numbers, we have to expect that this will put significant strain on our healthcare system if we continue these case numbers. This is imperative that Manitobans adjust their holiday plans yet again.
In British Columbia, the COVID testing system is so overwhelmed that in parts of the province, officials are placing limits on who can get a PCR test. In populated areas like Vancouver, tests are now being reserved for higher risk people, including those over 65 and with severe symptoms. Nunavut has ordered a strict territory-wide lockdown after detecting multiple cases there. The government says all indoor gatherings are now banned and all non-essential businesses must shut down. Libraries, gyms, and churches are also closed. No matter where you live, this Christmas will likely look different. Between new restrictions and rising case counts, holiday plans are in flux. Sophie Lui reports on how Canadians are adapting.
Hopes were high for this holiday season that family and friends would be able to get together once again. But Omicron has dashed those dreams, and suddenly the guest list is shrinking.
Both my son and my brother, who are supposed to come for dinner tomorrow, both have COVID, so they're homesick. So it's just going to be my husband and I.
With the new variants sweeping the country, the big gatherings of pre-pandemic days are mostly canceled for another year.
We're typically very busy at Christmas all the time. People are entertaining, they're hosting. However, this year it's been obviously a smaller scale.
Record high case numbers have put a chill on celebrations right across Canada.
We've got flights booked to Hawaii on January the 9th and back on the 21st. Now we don't know.
Sadly, we have a big Christmas party that we usually go to at my best friend's parents that we do every single year, and we canceled it.
And businesses that depend on Christmas parties are facing another season of uncertainty, while Canada tries to ride out this fifth wave of the pandemic.
There was a lot of last minute changes. People would be having a cocktail party for 30 or 40 people, and the day before, 2 days before, they would change it to individual households where we would have to deliver cocktail boxes to all of the homes.
In provinces like BC and Quebec, even New Year's resolutions to get in shape are off the table now, with gyms shut down under new restrictions.
It sucks. Obviously, it really sucks for everyone, and especially during this time of the year where people are just trying to, just find some balance, and everyone's eating a lot right now, and everyone's having candies and food and stuff like that.
There's no sugarcoating it. This holiday is another letdown for many. But maybe if we all have ourselves a very little Christmas, next year our troubles will finally be out of sight. Sophie Lui, Global News, Vancouver.
Despite the pandemic's long shadow over the holidays, the Prime Minister tried to hit a hopeful note in his annual Christmas message to Canadians.
Let's encourage our friends and family to get their vaccine and booster shots. Let's follow public health measures, wear our masks, and keep our distances. Let's keep being safe and smart, and let's finish the fight against COVID-19 so we can build a better future for everyone. My friends, brighter days are ahead, and we'll reach them together.
The pandemic is obviously a key priority for the Prime Minister, but that's not the only challenge his government is facing. Our Ottawa Bureau Chief, Mercedes Stephenson, sat down with Justin Trudeau for a wide-ranging interview.
2021 was a difficult year for many Canadians. For Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, it came with unprecedented challenges, both domestic and international. On the home front, the marathon COVID-19 pandemic came with twists and turns, from an initially slow vaccine rollout to new variants to more lockdowns and public fatigue.
The best thing we can do to support people is to end this pandemic for good.
The Prime Minister also called an election which he won, but with the same result as 2019. And if the pandemic and a self-imposed election didn't throw enough curveballs, foreign policy was a true 2021 flashpoint. After the diplomatic standoff with China that saw the two Michaels imprisoned for nearly 3 years, Justin Trudeau says it is time to rethink how the West handles China. He says allied countries should work together, not just on foreign policy, but also when it comes to business and trade.
We've been competing, and China has been, from time to time, very cleverly playing us off each other in a open market competitive way. We need to do a better job of working together and standing strong so that China can't, play the angles and divide us one against the other.
Despite that, the Prime Minister would not give a time frame for when the Canadian government will decide whether to allow Huawei to build 5G infrastructure in Canada or whether it will bar it on 5G completely. But Mr. Trudeau did say that Ottawa is looking at China differently than when he first took office in 2015.
But I think we're going into it with a very vivid understanding of the way modern China operates.
We'll also talk about what the Prime Minister called mission impossible for former Defence Minister Harjit Sajjan, dealing with sexual misconduct and toxic power dynamics in the military, and the denials Mr. Trudeau says top military commanders engaged in. We'll also talk about whether Canada is doing enough, fast enough, to help vulnerable Afghans who protected Canadian soldiers, and what the two Michaels said to the Prime Minister when they finally touched down in Canada after years in Chinese prisons. Look for our special presentation of In Conversation with the Prime Minister tomorrow on Global News and again Sunday on the West Block. Mercedes Stephenson, Global News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, exoplanets excitement. NASA's new telescope gets ready for liftoff. Welcome back. This Christmas, scientists are especially excited. Tomorrow morning, after years of delays, the state-of-the-art James Webb Space Telescope is scheduled to launch. The $10 billion project has the potential to reveal new secrets of the universe by providing a view of space never seen before. As Eric Sorenson reports, Canada is playing a key role.
It's going to go all the way to this point that we call L2.
Lisa Dang is one excited exoplanet expert, among the first who will use the James Webb Space Telescope when it reaches its new home 1.5 million kilometers from Earth.
This is a truly, dream come true.
Canada has contributed 2 key instruments, a guidance sensor to focus on distant galaxies and an imager to probe new planets. Lisa Dang will study one hot planet with oceans of lava and a rock vapor atmosphere.
For the first time, we're going to look at the interaction between oceans, a crust, a mantle, and the core of a planet, and the atmosphere of a planet.
The launch will be one of the most important in the history of space exploration. 30 years in development, the Webb telescope will look further out and further back in time to answer the most basic questions. How did we get here? And are we alone?
We're going to see towards the beginning of the universe, closer than ever before with Webb.
The Canadian Space Agency is a major partner with NASA and the European Space Agency, so Canada will be at the forefront of new discoveries in space.
Canada has access to 5% of the entire observation time of the whole observatory. So the Canadian scientists during that period will actually get to decide where it's pointing, what images it's taking, and they will have privileged access to these images.
One Canadian scientist will study the formation of a nearby galaxy.
This really is a wonderful mission of discovery. It's just seeing the universe with these new eyes gives us deeper insights into things we never would have expected.
Webb will replace this, the Hubble telescope. The new space telescope is 100 times more powerful, with a mirror that must unfold outside the rocket. It's outfitted with a solar shield to block heat and light, but will be so far beyond the moon that it can't be fixed if anything goes wrong.
We're not going to have the second chance like we did with Hubble, so it has to work on the first go.
And that's what makes the next month of spaceflight nerve-wracking for scientists all over the world.
I'm really just on the edge of my seat.
The nervousness starts with the expected liftoff tomorrow morning. Eric Sorenson, Global News, Toronto.
What if all 3 of your vaccine doses are different brands? Still ahead, the experts answer your COVID questions. BC's provincial health officer had a message today for those considering whether to ignore public health advice and attend large gatherings with friends and family over the holidays. Dr. Bonnie Henry says there's still so much we don't know about Omicron.
Omicron is different. It is spreading in a way that is very different from previous variants. In a sense, we're in a different game, a different pandemic now. And the one big question that we don't have yet, fully understand yet, is how severe this is going to get. What's the impact going to be on our hospitals?
And speaking of questions, all week, viewers have been sending in their questions to us about the new variant. And to help answer some of your COVID Christmas questions, we are joined now by epidemiologist Dr. Christopher Labos, who joins me now from Montreal. Dr. Labos, thanks so much for joining us. Let's get right to the first question, and a timely one for those planning to sit down for some Christmas dinner this evening. This one comes from Jack, who asks, can you get infected if someone who is infected were to breathe or cough or handle your food?
So from what we know, no. It's not transmitted in food. You can't contaminate someone's food. The issue with family gatherings and gathering around a meal is that you're sitting around the table with people who are all breathing the same air as you. So that's the real danger. It's not really a question of contact, meaning you're touching surfaces or you're eating contaminated food or anything of that kind.
Okay, good to know. And another question, this one from Joanne. Of course, a lot of people wondering how they can socialize safely over the holidays. She wants to know, are you okay not wearing a mask if you're outside talking with people for, say, 5 to 10 minutes and you're not social distancing?
Yeah, that's probably okay. I mean, here's the thing we have to remember. It's never a question of safe or dangerous. It's always a question of degrees of risk. So if you're outside, the risk is significantly decreased. That being said, it's still there is still some value in keeping a bit of a distance from people. If you're outside in a large crowd surrounded by people and you're in close contact with them, that's probably not ideal. But if you can keep at least a respectful distance and you're outside, the risk of one person passing COVID on to another is probably pretty low, especially if you keep that interaction short, like only a few minutes long.
Okay. Next question comes from Jan. We've received a lot of questions like this one. People concerned about mixing doses, especially as they go to get their booster shot. So for Jan, she's in Nova Scotia, where there are more Moderna shots. And her first shot was AstraZeneca. Second was Pfizer. Are there any considerations or implications in mixing thrice over?
The short answer is no. There doesn't. Pfizer and Moderna seem to be interchangeable, and there's no real reason to prefer one over the other. And there's no harm if you got, an AstraZeneca followed by something else. So I wouldn't worry about this in any way, shape, or form.
Right. This next question comes from Karen, and obviously one that a lot of people are wondering as people try and get their hands on those precious rapid tests. But Karen's been hearing more and more about the high rate of false negatives that we see with the rapid tests. So why is it that these tests are still being promoted as a way to know whether it's safe to gather?
So the rapid tests are not perfect. There can be false negatives and there can be false positives. So they're not perfect, but they are still useful. So we shouldn't overstate their benefit, but we shouldn't understate it either. It is a useful test if you use it in conjunction with everything else. So if you are fully vaccinated, you've gotten your booster, you're wearing a mask, you're keeping gatherings small, you're in a well-ventilated area, and everybody around that table tests negative, that's one extra layer of protection. So remember, it's not perfect, but a test doesn't have to be perfect in order to be useful.
Yeah, I remember seeing one analysis that found that I think it was about 60% effectiveness for those rapid antigen tests for people without symptoms. So as you say, an imperfect tool, but an important one nonetheless. Last question for you comes from Ken, who says that at the beginning of the pandemic, there was some talk about achieving herd immunity. And Ken wants to know, will we ever reach and achieve herd immunity?
Well, it sort of depends. It depends on the virus. It depends on the new variants. It depends what the ultimate level of vaccination rate we achieve. We still have a ways to go before we vaccinate the entire population. So we're really not quite there yet. And, the point of herd immunity is not that the virus is going to disappear. The point of herd immunity is that we have enough vaccinated people to protect the small number of people who can't be vaccinated. So I think the short answer to that question is we will wait and see. I don't think anybody really knows how this pandemic is going to play out over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, one thing we've learned to expect is the unexpected, that's for sure, over the past couple of years. Dr. Christopher Labos in Montreal, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, especially on Christmas Eve. Really appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Next, a feast for the eyes, hidden in plain sight. Well, take a look at this. A drone captured this bird's eye view of festive Fort St. John, BC, transformed into a winter wonderland to support the Salvation Army. It really is a beautiful time of year, though in the cold of winter, you can be forgiven for keeping your head down. But one Ottawa artist is trying to change that. She calls herself Street Art Miniature, or SAM for short. And as Mike Lecouture explains, Sam is hoping people will take a moment to take in the beauty of their surroundings.
It's been said that art is all around us, even if we hardly notice while hunched over our phones. The size of some murals or sculptures make them hard to miss. But if you look hard enough around Ottawa, you'll find some masterpieces are mini. These little clay creations are hidden around Ottawa in plain sight. However, they're hard to spot because most are the size of a dime or fingernail, and making them is no easy task.
A lollipop can take a couple of minutes. Something like a charcuterie board, though, could take up to 3 to 4 hours, depending on the different pieces.
She goes by Sam, or Street Art Miniature. The civil servant works surreptitiously, so we've agreed to keep her identity secret. Often she'll place a piece at night or quickly during the day. And like other street artists, she wants her work to be the focus.
I want to stop someone in their day and think, what? Why is that there? A tiny hot dog on a brick wall? That's strange. The juxtaposition of it is just so odd.
She does give clues about where she's left the clay carvings, and the minis have a major following. John Normando has hunted them with his partner since 2017, and they head out every time there's a new post.
You want to go see it in person, just to appreciate it in person, but also we found that we really started appreciating the actual hunt itself as well.
Normando isn't her only fan. The makers of a locally made milk-based vodka collaborated with Sam for a major mini marketing campaign.
Obviously, we're not going to be able to compete with the big guys in terms of spending, so we have to do something that's a little different and a little interesting. And if it can also mean supporting a local artist and doing something fun, then all the better.
And that's Sam's goal, to bring a little fun to people's day, especially during the pandemic.
Trying to encourage people to go out and explore their neighborhoods and just go for a walk, get some fresh air, try to enjoy yourself during this time.
And to keep an eye on your surroundings, because you never know what you may find. Mike Lecouture, Global News, Ottawa.
Making me hungry. That is Global National for this Christmas Eve. I'm Jeff Semple. We know it's been a difficult time, so we wanted to leave you tonight with a little levity. We asked you, our Global News community, to capture your furry friends wearing their festive best, and you delivered. Cats, dogs, even budgies showing off their Christmas spirit. So thank you for sharing those, and thank you for watching. Colleen Christie will be at the anchor desk here tomorrow. Have a safe and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.